Welcome to Norse Code. This is part 2 of episode 51. I'm your host, Dusty O'Connell, and I'll be joined in this pre-recorded adventure by Justis Mosqueda of Bleacher Report, Draft Breakdown, and Optimum Scouting, as well as our regular co-host and analyst, the editor of Vikings Territory, contributor to football and Vikings blogs around the internet, including one you may have heard of, the Daily Norseman. He's Arif Hassan. And now we join episode 51, already in progress. Dusty, take it away. 2 prognostications to get us started. James, our intrepid and voiceless producer, submitted a prognostication that Josh Robinson leads the NFL in interceptions at the end of the year.
Yeah, that is very irresponsible. It's also within, I guess, the realm of possibility, which is the most insane thing. That doesn't make any sense, you know? He has 2 interceptions, which I think is just behind Kyle Fuller, right? Who has 3, and that's the most. And he's in company with like 4 other guys with 2 interceptions at cornerback, and at safety you've got Malcolm Jenkins with 3, and then a couple of safeties with 2, including Harrison Smith.
He is on pace to lead the NFL in interceptions, like the Vikings are on pace to lead the NFL in lack of fumbles lost.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly the way to think of it. I bet Harrison Smith out intercepts him because he's been in position more to make those interceptions, even though Josh Robinson has been playing well. I like that prediction, though, because it's very irresponsible, but it's also plausible.
My wildly irresponsible prognostication for this week is that Cordero Patterson is the number 1 player for the Vikings in yards after the catch.
What the hell? That's not irresponsible.
It's wildly irresponsible. Where has he been? When does he ever catch a ball?
My fantasy team is asking.
I mean, but
Many people's fantasy teams are asking.
Him and Torrey Smith.
Cordero Patterson is.
But like you realize that like the leader right now in yards after the catch is Jarius Wright, and Cordero Patterson is just behind him. Who do you think is going to get more touches going forward? That's not irresponsible at all. That's just your bitterness.
but listen, but just hear me out for just 5 seconds.
I'm listening.
I feel like the team that Mike Zimmer is now asked to coach is vastly different from the team that he was asked to coach in week 1. And Zimmer, by, either entire season-long play design or just by, design against, recent things that have happened, he's had to kind of spread things out. He can't rely on any one player or any 2 players or any given, scheme that has particularly good players in it to get things done. And so what we've seen in the last couple of weeks is a very kind of widespread offense where lots of people get lots of touches, and it is specifically designed to be an offense where people who you would think would be the regular ball carriers are maybe not. Well, there's a lot of trickery and deception in the offensive game plan, and a lot of the ball gets spread around a lot. And I think that given all the injuries, we can't count on Greg Jennings and Cordero Patterson splitting all the receptions.
But he's been targeted exactly as many times as he had been last week and in the first week. He was targeted 7 times against New England. That was the most. Other times he's been targeted 4 times. He happened to catch it 2 fewer times this time. But, I mean, he's the same part of the offense. Some weeks he's just going to do more. Some weeks he's going to do a little bit less because he's a very boom-bust player. And in those weeks that he does more, it's going to outweigh those weeks that he does. He's obviously going to lead the Vikings in yak. That's ridiculous. That is not a wildly irresponsible prognostication.
All right. Can you blame a guy for wanting to be right?
In this case, yes, because you're supposed to be irresponsible. My irresponsible prognostication is that Teddy Bridgewater will, if he plays, obviously it's conditional upon him playing, that he'll have more adjusted net yards per attempt than Aaron Rodgers next week. Or on Thursday, whatever. That's pretty irresponsible.
Oh, man. Have I whined about how this game's played on Thursday already? Or have I not whined about that yet? Me, as a Packers and Ducks fan, I have to choose.
Oh, are the Ducks playing on Thursday?
They are both playing at the exact same time. Yep, they're going to be overlapping. And Oregon, much like Green Bay, is out a couple offensive linemen. And I think at the last point that I saw, they are still starting a true freshman at left tackle and a walk-on at right tackle for Marcus Mariota.
I remember
future
that.
number one pick. Yeah,
man.
I think he took like 5 sacks or something in the first half of the Washington State game, late Saturday night, which thankfully no one saw. Which was like more than he's ever taken in a game ever. It was just amazing how terrible that offensive line was. Much like Derek Sherrod is a dumpster, they rolled out 4 dumpsters in center Aronis Grossi, who's going to end up being a day 2 pick.
Right. That is. So they're playing Arizona, right? They got pass rushers.
Yeah. Arizona also, Arizona Thursday night games, Dixon injury. I'm so glad I actually don't have to see the pregame for that. See highlights of back-to-back-to-back, just Dixon knee exploding and national championship dreams and Heisman hopes just going down the drain in one play. Oh, man, I never want to remember that game ever again. Arizona always plays them tough, though. It's going to be ridiculous. I'm going to look up at halftime at the halftime of the Packers-Vikings game, and Oregon's going to be down like 57 points. So I'm not even going to bat an eye.
I'm just going to check out. All right. Well, I mean, everyone hates Thursday night NFL football, right? Well, anyone who believes in America does. NFL
it's the worst.
Thursdays.
It's so stupid.
It's terrible.
Every little thing they could do to make it better would just be another small chip away into football every night of the week, which is not the best outcome.
Yeah.
I think legally they can't play on Friday nights though, right?
They cannot play on Fridays or Saturdays because of monopoly rules, yeah.
Yep. As far as my wild prognostication.
Monopoly rules. I love that.
My wild prognostication doesn't involve either of these teams, but one man in Houston named J.J. Watt, who will finish in the top 3 touchdowns scored for the Texans this year. He's already got 2. I think that ranks him second on the team. Yep.
Wow.
He got a pick 6.
Wow.
And he got that one touchdown.
I love it.
He got a reception because he played tight end.
Yep. He had that receiving touchdown. Yep. Did you guys manage to catch any of the Monday night game tonight?
Yeah, no, I watched all of it.
Did you see 350-pound Dontari Poe blocking 350-pound Vince Wilfork?
That was football porn. No, it was amazing. They lined him up at fullback.
There was 700 pounds of collision on a pass play, and it was amazing.
It's you don't get to see this as often in football as you'd like because it doesn't happen. But yeah, they had like 2 of the heaviest dudes in football hit each other. 2 of the most talented heavy dudes in football too just hit each other.
I'm convinced some of these teams are doing it for vines at this point. Like that one dude from Arkansas State he looked like he got shot on that fake punt or whatever.
Oh yeah, he was definitely doing it for the vines.
Yeah, people are just doing these for gifs and highlights and things, and I am not opposed. I enjoy every second of this.
It was unfortunate that it wasn't a running play because that would have been a much more serious collision. But it was
maybe that's what Houston's doing with J.J. Watt. Maybe that's just their whole plan. It's like, you know what? We're hoping for Jameis or Cook or Mariota, someone next year. So
he doesn't get enough monster hits as a defensive end. We need to put him in as tight end so other people try to hit him and he just bowls them over. Like,
yeah, I want to see what J.J. Watt's yak potential is.
Yeah, with that damn knee brace that's around his elbow that makes him look like a superhero.
Right? He doesn't even need that anymore. Like, he's just wearing it now because it's what he wears now.
He's trying to convince us that he's hurt. He wants us to think he's mortal.
Well,
He's trying to get in our heads.
I just think he has pointy elbows.
He's just
that's
protecting
interesting.
us.
and the brace like de-pointies his elbows a little bit.
It's very
Makes his pads
considerate
fit
of him.
better.
That also fits the J.J. Watt narrative of someone who's just a humble white collar or blue collar rather.
You know what? He kind of has pointy ears that stick out. I mean, he might just be a giant leprechaun.
That would actually make a lot of sense.
Wow.
Yeah, I bet if you gave J.J. Watt the ball on a screen, he could do some damage.
Oh man, no one's tackling him.
Yeah, right? It's the perfect plan. He played tight end at Central Michigan, so it's perfect.
Yep, business decisions. Sometimes you got to make that on the fly.
All right, Justice, before you go, make a score prediction because we're making it.
Oh, make a score prediction.
Yeah.
I think Green Bay pulls out. If Matt Asiata wasn't your feature back, I'd be worried about what you guys are able to do on the ground.
Right.
I still think he'll be able to get plenty of yards, but I don't think they're going to be able to build everything that they want around it. I'm hoping to see Teddy play, so I'm just going to predict this if Teddy's playing too. I think it'll be close, especially since it's a
Thursday night divisional game.
Yeah, it's a Thursday night. It's a Thursday night game. It's on short. It's a divisional game. It's at night. A lot of guys defensively for the Packers are fighting off injuries. I think it'll be a 3-score game. Give me 27-24 Packers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the score will end up being a little bit higher, but yeah, I think that's fair.
Usually I go to Boveda for a baseline, things like this, and Boveda has nothing. No spread and no money line for the Vikings or Packers game. I am inclined to believe Justice when he says that it'll be a 3-score game. I am less inclined to believe Arif when he says that he thinks the score will be a little bit higher than that, because both Arif and I have agreed that we would take the over on most Vikings matchups this season, and we have almost always been wrong.
Would have been right on this Atlanta game.
Well, we managed to somehow be both right and wrong about the Atlanta game. At any rate, I'm going to take Minnesota, but I'm going to go with 24-17 as a score.
All right, so I found the betting odds for everything that's not Boveda on ESPN. On average, it's a 9.5 favorite for the Packers. 48, 9.5.
That's probably too high.
I would put some money on the Vikings to beat the spread on that.
Yeah, unfortunately,
on Thursday nights.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have an account with 5 Dimes or anything like that. Otherwise, I might potentially consider it. Not that this is gambling advice. But yeah,
which is illegal. No one should do. Ever.
You should only gamble on sports if you are living in or betting in a space where it is legal for you to do so. And if you are, then you should maybe put some money on the Vikings to beat the spread, because 9.5 seems generous. I mean, I genuinely think the Vikings are, a less than 1-score favorite to win this game.
And whatever you do, don't repeatedly bet on the Jacksonville point spread, because I will keep doing that. Oh, did I let that out?
Were you here for the part when I talked about how my death in my Survivor League this year was predicated on not betting on whoever the Jaguars were playing this week?
Making bad decisions.
San Diego won, the fuckers.
R.I.P. Eric Stoner. He and Uncle Chaps, both of Twitter Jaguars fame. We're at the San Diego game, and we're, sending us message in G-Chat. We go, how'd the game go, guys? Bortles good. Everything else sucked.
Per usual. Right,
anyway, Arif, your score prediction.
Yeah, well, okay, so Boveda is functionally predicting a 20-29 game because it's a 9.5 point spread, 48 and a half under over. To make that more reasonable, I'd Boveda is functionally predicting a 21-30 game, a little bit less than that. I obviously think that spread is too high. But like I said, I think that the total points are a little bit more. I still think Green Bay scores 30, but the Vikings are at 27.
Ooh, and actually, this is the most interesting score prediction set we've had this season. Usually we fall down pretty similar, but these are three.
They're very distinct, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Fair enough. I could see any of these things happening. Like I said, I mean, Green Bay hasn't been consistent other than being consistently poor at running the ball and stopping the run. So
and getting hurt.
And getting hurt, as always, part of the course. So, yeah, I mean, anything could happen on Thursday night.
Yeah, we'll see.
Are we pitching this game? Is that did I just run a promo for him?
Yeah, we just did the NFL Network's job. I'm going to talk to you later about Miles Jack, but that is going to be super interesting. All right, so we're about to hit the mailbag. Justis, you said you might want to head out, so this would be about...
Yeah, if you don't want to commit yourself to a 25-question mailbag...
25?
It's pretty aggressive.
I opened and made a business decision, much like a defensive back would seeing J.J. Watt run downfield, and it decided I was not about that life. So yeah, I'll head out. You guys can send me your Norse Code hats, autographed by the famous Arif.
Yeah, well, since you're somebody who is actually associated with the show, you can be guaranteed to be cut out of any conversation that happens about hats that you're going to win.
Yeah,
amazing.
Thanks for coming on.
Amazing.
You don't get it.
At any rate, Justis, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show again. We can't wait until we have a good reason to have you back on again. We can find you at Bleacher Report and Draft Breakdown and on your blog. Is there anything else you got going on right now that our fans should know about?
Not really. I do some stuff for Optimum Scouting like a reef. Other than that, I mean, on my blog, I'm just charting a bunch of these quarterback prospects at this point. I'm really just focused on Green Bay in season and looking at these potential first-round pick quarterbacks and things like that.
All right.
If you don't already follow Justis on Twitter, you really should. Justis Mosqueda has an incredible Twitter account, and he posts the most amazing scouting reports and GIFs and all that nonsense. His Twitter handle is at JUMOSQ.
The Jumosque. The Jumosque.
Yes, the Jumosque.
Amazing. Well, I've had a great time, guys. You guys are always my dudes. Next Packers matchup or whenever you guys want to talk draft talk. I don't know when your guys' bye week is. I mean, we could always do that.
This is your home as well as ours. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
I promised a 25-question mailbag. It's pretty close to that. I stopped counting at 20, and there were only a couple left.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we'll just go. I'll go to them pretty quickly then.
Some of them are pretty easy.
Okay.
Nate Chaselo writes us with a handful of questions submitted by email. With the Falcons' offensive line being held together with baling wire, what happened to the pressure from the defensive line? All 6 of our linemen could not get pressure.
That's a bit of an oversimplification, but I think that the frustration is well warranted. I mean, they did get a sack, right? That was Anthony Barr, right? They got 4 quarterback hits and 14 quarterback hurries. That's actually not that bad. There was pressure. Whether or not that pressure turned into what it should have, given that the Falcons' offensive line was not particularly good, that's a different question. As to what happened, Jake Matthews is very good, so Everson Griffin couldn't do much. Brian Robinson makes a career off of getting pressures but no sacks. That's just a thing that happened. The interior line is not holding up to what it was hyped to be in the preseason. So that's what's happened.
How do you cover Jordy Nelson?
I don't know. You hope a little bit.
You throw a tarp over him.
Yeah. I mean, he's not the top receiver in the NFL, right? He's usually in the conversation for the top 5, but I don't see people consistently putting him there. That's probably fair just because we tend to underrate receivers like Antonio Brown, who probably should be in the top 5. But the point is, Jordy Nelson is coverable. My guess is what's going to happen is we're going to see something similar with the Julio Jones plan, or hopefully even in terms of outcomes or something more like the Jimmy Graham plan. But you're probably just going to have someone on top, someone underneath him, bracket him a lot, or just basically double cover him. Those other receivers, like Justis was saying, don't have that much chemistry with Rodgers, and they're all pretty young. So I'm okay committing 2 people to stopping Jordy.
I would say just put Harrison Smith underneath and let him catch a crazy gazelle leaping interception.
Yeah. Let him prove James wrong and lead the team in interceptions.
On a scale of doing your taxes to a 6-year-old with a puppy and a candy bar,
oh,
how excited are you for Teddy time?
Oh, I'm about to go on like a space trip excited. I'm very excited.
Peanut butter Teddy time, peanut butter Teddy time, peanut butter Teddy, peanut butter Teddy, peanut butter Teddy with a baseball bat.
That's true. I'm definitely banana suit excited.
Peanut butter Teddy with a baseball bat is one of my favorite things to say. It's just like, it tickles my tongue while I'm saying it.
Okay, we don't need to know about that.
Luke Larson at Larson DeMartian, great Twitter handle, by the way.
Yeah.
Writes us with a question. How much of Teddy's performance was due to actual skill and how much was poor Atlanta defense? I'm going to go with a lot of it was due to actual skill, given how many times Teddy was hurried and how well he performed under pressure.
Yeah, I think in terms of like breaking down the film and what he can do, I think it was more in terms of actual skill. I think what you're going to see, maybe his completion percentage, which by itself actually was not particularly extraordinary. I think you'll probably see it lower just because people will close in on the receivers a little bit better. But I mean, yeah, the Atlanta Falcons have been allowing a lot in terms of like net yards per attempt and stuff like that. In fact, I think they lead the league in net yards per attempt allowed. But I think Teddy's ability to identify an open man, that's something that will continue. Maybe I don't think he's going to continue getting 10.6 yards an attempt. Obviously, that's not going to happen on a consistent basis. But I mean, I think a lot of it's him. I mean, you don't get 10.6 yards per attempt unless you yourself are good against a bad defense.
He has remarkable vision and remarkable awareness, and those traits will suit him well in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Similar question submitted by Manuel Nidero. Did Matt Khalil and or the line look good because Atlanta has no defensive line, or was he / were they genuinely better?
Both, although I'm actually leaning towards the first more than the second. So, yeah. I think that's
maybe that crazy Matt Khalil PR campaign actually worked.
Maybe it did. I'm going to be pretty generous to Khalil and give him not that many games to prove me wrong, right? I think if he puts together 2 more games that are average, I think that's pretty good evidence that something is different, even though these 2 pass rushes. So, I mean, the Packers pass rush we already talked about. The Atlanta pass rush, right? But the Packers pass rush is better, right? And then after that, you're going to get even better. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty good test to see if he's turned things around. So I'm going to give him. He only needs to do like average, right, in the next 2 games. So, we'll see, but I'm skeptical.
I like this next question. I think it is Di's revenge for me and James polluting her mailbag with fake questions.
Oh no, why did you do that?
How many pairs of shoes is too many? What about handbags?
You do you. Yeah, well, however many shoes, how many pairs of shoes you ever want. That's enough. However many you want. For me, 0 handbags is fine. And
what about shoulder bags?
Oh, I need like 2 of those.
Do you
big ones.
Carry a backpack or a messenger bag?
Yeah, I've got 2 messenger bags, 1 big, 1 small. The big one is really just for traveling. The small one's for like working.
Yeah, you have like an airport bag and a laptop bag.
Yeah, basically. Shoes, I'd like to have 4 pairs of shoes, maybe 5. You know,
what are the style and or design requirements?
Well, I want one that's pretty good for running or athletic stuff. So I've got a good pair for that. It's actually really good. We just got it recently because my girlfriend bought them, so I said but they're mine. They've got everyday walking around in the city shoes. Those are like these nice canvas shoes. Then I've got like yard work shoes, which are like my old athletic shoes that are awful. Then I've got formal wear shoes. I'd like to get another pair of those in another color, but for now I've got pretty nice black shoes. And then I've just got like relaxing around the whatever shoes. Those are moccasins. So those are my 5.
How many pairs of shoes is too many? That's a complicated question. I am going to agree with Arif's answer, but pin it down further to say that if you were a shoe collector, then it really depends on the line of shoes you're trying to collect.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hold anything against sneakerheads, so I don't know why I'd hold anything against.
Exactly. If you're a sneakerhead, that's fine. If you are a platform shoe or heel shoe enthusiast, that's fine. I am not necessarily a shoe collector, but I'm a big fan of having shoes that match my various outfits. And so my kind of male fashion baseline is a pair of dressy black shoes and a pair of dressy brown shoes and a pair of dressy white shoes for summer, probably boat shoes. I have a pair of white Lacoste slip-ons that are functionally only good for Pride weekend or if I'm vacationing in the Hamptons. One pair of new athletic shoes for athletic stuff, and one pair of old athletic shoes that you can spill paint on, right, or, hose out a basement in, or whatever you got to do.
What about bags?
Hold on, I'm still on shoes. I got black, brown, white, athletic, and I think there should be one or two pairs of shoes that can be like cross appropriate, like something between dressy. Like I have a couple of pairs of shoes. They're Skechers is a brand that I really prefer because I have really wide like foot tops or whatever, and they managed to make sneakers that like look dressier than sneakers but are still as comfortable. So I would say as a person with 7 pairs of shoes, too many would be probably like 10 or 15.
Yeah, for me, too many would probably be around 8. But yeah, that's the answer to that question. But you do,
handbags? I don't know. Messenger bag is an essential. I hate tiny bags.
Yeah.
People who carry around tiny bags need to learn how to live their lives better. There's nothing more to say than that. I think once you reach, you can have as many handbags as you want, but when I see you carrying more than one, you've gone too far.
Yeah, you can't carry more than one. You can have carrying more than one is just ugh. But then I start judging you. That doesn't count having bags inside of bags. That's totally fine.
I have one messenger bag that matches almost everything I wear. It more or less goes with all of my shoes except for the one pair of brown shoes I have.
Right.
Because it's gray canvas.
Right.
But it's sharp enough. It's well designed. It's well tailored. It's a nice bag, but it's casual enough where I can still wear it with athletic shoes and it's fine. So I have one messenger bag that I tried to match with all my shoes, but I get that if you're a shoe person, you probably need bags to match your shoes because a woman's shoes should always match her bags, just like a man's shoes should always match his belt. And extend as desired.
Cool.
Brian Flynn writes us, how has Josh Robinson managed to transform into a very solid cornerback seemingly overnight?
So I just had this conversation over Twitter with people who are fans of the team, people who are just observers, people like, Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus. So part of it's that, I wrote an article. I'm going to link it in the episode notes, if I remember. Hopefully I do. That functionally was just, I wrote it back that Josh Robinson was not salvageable. The reason for that is because the times he played outside, because he's only going to play outside, here, because he was not very good in the slot. The times he played outside, they were actually bad. He looked confused. He looked out of place. He didn't look like he knew what was happening. He didn't show the requisite awareness, things like that. Obviously, he's playing very well right now. And part of that obviously just has to do with scheme. Part of it has to do with technique coaching. Part of it has to do with the fact that he was like super young when he played outside as a rookie, because I thought as a rookie, everyone said, oh, he looked pretty good as a rookie. What happened, in his sophomore year. I thought he was overrated as a rookie. I thought his rookie year was maybe okay for a rookie, but I wouldn't say it was good for a rookie, and I wouldn't say that was a reason that we would have an answer on him going one way or the other. And like I said, I had some reservations about the way that he played as a rookie. But one thing we didn't think about all that much is that he was 21 when he was a rookie. He's very young. He's 23 right now. And so some of it is just sort of the natural development of somebody who is playing their natural position, who is now hitting an age that a lot of rookies entering the league are right now. But he has NFL level coaching. Mike Zimmer, of course, is a defensive backs whisperer. That's a big part of it. He's playing a position that he's comfortable with, and the scheme just happens to fit, his talents. So I think it's a combination of those things.
A remarkably good answer. Chris Vandercook writes us at C Vandercook on Twitter. Would you rather fight 10 duck-sized Clay Matthewses or one Clay Matthews-sized duck?
Ducks are pretty vicious, man. A big one, I don't know, but I don't think I could take. I don't think I could take 10 duck-sized Clay Matthews, and whatever you want to read into that in terms of my masculinity, fine. But I'd rather take the duck. But let's be clear, this wasn't an easy choice. When I saw this on Twitter, I had to think about it. And ducks can get pretty bad, but they're not as bad as geese, and that's why I'd rather take on that duck.
I have 3 thoughts on this. 1, my answer is entirely dependent on whether Chris Vandercook is a periwinkle or an orange red.
Is there some joke I'm not getting here?
Yes.
Okay.
Given that, I would suggest that if Mr. Vandercook has not seen it, he looks up the scientifically accurate DuckTales for a musical description of duck behavior that might change his existing frame of knowledge, I guess. With those 2 thoughts in mind, I would take 10 duck-sized Clay Matthewses every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
So your argument is that ducks are very vicious.
Vicious Rapists by Evolutionary Design.
I know that, but I'm not a female duck.
Okay, but if...
So they have this evolutionary
if natural selection gives you a corkscrew-shaped penis and the mental acuity to persist in the act of sex, which all of this is detailed in the scientifically accurate DuckTales video. I can only extrapolate that all duck behavior is kind of fit into the same kind of violent frame.
But there are all sorts of animals that have violent reproduction that are not violent outside of reproduction.
Okay. Clay Matthews is both taller and significantly heavier than I am.
Right, so that...
And the possibility of being raped by a duck that is both larger and heavier than I am with a corkscrew penis is just so terrifying that no matter whether I win or not, I would much rather fight 10 duck-sized Clay Matthews than one Clay Matthews-sized duck.
But they have the ability to grip and use tools and have tiny duck-sized knives.
Yeah, they're also duck-sized.
Fine.
And they're not going to rape me.
Well, I mean, as far as you know.
Well, they might try, but it would be
way
less.
It would not be.
It would be way less bad than if the one Clay Matthews-sized duck successfully did.
Okay, Dusty has convinced me to be on the fence on this one. Next question.
Norse Code, your number one podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. All right, I guess we'll go through the Kyle questions now.
Yeah, why not?
My dog is dumb. How do I fix this?
He's attached photographic proof. I don't know, man. It's your dog. I don't think dumb dogs are things that, wow, that is a dumb dog. I'm not going to fix that. That is hilarious.
Is he stuck?
He's hiding.
I saw a photo on Facebook this week of a dog flipped like 180 degrees from that position, like head sticking out only, but it was stuck under a couch because it used to like hide under the couch,
and then it couldn't
but it ate so much food that it got too fat, and then it finally crossed the threshold of being too fat to hide under the couch and then got stuck.
Oh, I mean, the dog that lived at this house, my roommate's dog, he thought he was maybe 8 times smaller than he was. It was very dumb and ended up getting into a lot of dumb situations. Dumbness in dogs is you can't fix stupid sometimes, so you just got to embrace it when a dog is dumb. Because some dogs are obviously very smart, but when they're dumb, that's basically a whole different breed, and you just have to love it. Sorry.
Well, and the rule is the same for trying to correct an unpleasant behavior as trying to correct dumbness. Just reward positive behavior as much as you can.
Yeah. In terms of explaining to your dog in laborious detail how to hide, I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, no, I would just say kick it.
Lightly.
I mean, not like actually like kick it, but maybe just like prod it underneath the bed further.
Right.
What's the best method to speed up a compost pile when winter sets in and it gets cold?
This would be something that a number of my friends could answer really well and in significant detail, but that I cannot.
I lived in Boulder for a long time.
So you should know this.
The number one piece of advice that most people would give you is to make your compost pile larger during the summer and make it more alkaline so that it can spend more time eating and being warm.
All right, there you go. Next question.
Any scenario where Castle leaves and Ponder is signed at a regular rate as a backup to Teddy Bridgewater next year?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a scenario. One where Castle gets more money than the Vikings willing to offer him because he's out for the year on an injury, which tends to depress your
So what
rate.
are those scenarios? Castle to Buffalo? Castle to Oakland?
There are like no quarterbacks in this league anymore. There might be zero. There might be zero people playing quarterback at a high level. So with that in mind, I think there's going to be a significant market for an injured Castle. In that case, by a significant market, I think that $4 million a year, right? In that case, I think that Ponder could be, signed as a backup, but I think that he won't be, just because I think he's just done with Minnesota. I think he just wants to be somewhere else.
And I think the organization would be happier to play musical quarterback chairs than to let Castle go and keep Ponder and then leave him as number 2.
Yeah, I think they'll try to sign Castle, and it only depends on sort of what Castle wants to do. But I think Ponder doesn't want to sign. But if he does, I think that he signs for $3.5 million a year, something like that.
Is Jerick McKinnon's surge sustainable? And if so, should I, and by I mean Kyle, replace LaShawn McCoy with him in my, and by my I mean Kyle's, fantasy league?
No, and also no. What kind of question is that? Obviously not. At least wait a couple of weeks, man. Yeah, like what LaShawn McCoy had 5 rushing yards this last week. That's not going to sustain. Just like Jerick McKinnon's probably not going to sustain for the next couple of weeks. Keep LaShawn McCoy, obviously.
So here's the thing. I feel like Jerick McKinnon and frankly a lot of players on the Vikings are not going to be very good fantasy picks for a while, just because of that thing I was talking about earlier where Zimmer finds himself with a Vikings team that he has to kind of present a lot of deceptive and like it's all about giving a lot of people a lot of touches and trying to confuse defenses and less about getting balls into the hands of proven playmakers. Because we're at a point where we have a lot of talent, but very few proven playmakers. And so a lot of hands are going to be seeing the ball by design.
And LaShawn McCoy's first 2 weeks were very good, and then his next 2 weeks were not very good. So I would just calm down. Just calm down.
Troy Podol at TPodol1, first time contributor to the Mailbag, offers us 2 questions. Patterson isn't seeing the ball at receiver much. Poor routes or just coincidence?
I think we answered that pretty well, but yeah, he's not a very good route runner.
Does Jasper Brinkley still play for the team? I believe he's our starting middle linebacker, but I haven't seen him lately.
Yeah, starting is a stretch of a word, right? Because he's not going to be there on nickel snaps. But no, he's definitely playing for the team. He's got 130 snaps, something like that. Yep, he's 128 snaps, which means he's actually seen the field about as much as Josh Robinson, because of Robinson's injury, but then also because Robinson has been subbing in. We've seen a lot of Robinson. So yeah, I mean he's been playing, but he's been playing less because they take him out in nickel downs, and you see a lot more nickel defenses in the NFL this year. So that's what's happening.
I forgot a couple of Kyla questions, so let's
really there's more.
Let's wrap those up. And I deleted a bunch. Over under on scouts who will have lost their jobs because of Teddy Bridgewater's success by week 17.
Let's see well, the problem is that different teams have different numbers of scouts, so I can't know, but I would say probably 20, because that's 2 scouting departments probably, and everyone loses their job when the GM loses their job, and I bet maybe 2 teams lose their job in part because they could have gone for Teddy and they didn't. So that seems about right. I'm always curious actually about this, what the difference between the opinions of the scouts and the opinions of the general managers are on a polarizing prospect like Teddy Bridgewater or Johnny Manziel. I'm always interested in if there's a consensus among scouts that's different than the consensus among front offices. But who knows?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'm not going to think too hard about it right now. Kyle's last question: how do you take your coffee?
It depends on my mood. A lot of times I'll take it black. Sometimes I'll take it black with sugar. A lot of times I take it as girly as possible. I put marshmallow cream in it. I put milk and honey sometimes in it. I put sugar in it. I definitely like chocolate in my coffee. I love white chocolate in coffee drinks. I got an espresso machine just so I can make girly coffee drinks. But I mean, I love those campfire mochas at Caribou. So I've tried to replicate those, but sometimes I just have black coffee with no sugar. So.
I'm so glad you asked, Kyle. I am an extreme coffee-phile.
Yeah, he is. We'll be here for another hour.
I take my coffee generally 2 ways. I always make it at home. I drink 1 32-ounce French press every morning.
Good God.
My water temperature is about 175 degrees. I have a kettle that is set for 175, but it heats the water up to 175, and so oftentimes the water will get hotter if I don't pull the kettle off the base quickly enough. And then if I'm not feeling caffeinated enough, I will enhance that with a cup of AeroPress coffee.
Wait, that is evidently delicious. So
If you are a 1 cup of coffee a day person, I strongly recommend the AeroPress. It is the best $30 you will ever spend on a coffee making device. And even if you camp a lot, the AeroPress will make uniformly delicious coffee. It is basically it was invented by the guy that invented the Aerobie, that weird, like, really sturdy rubber ring that you can throw like super far. He used the same technology to build a rubber seal in what is basically a graduated cylinder. And that's what an AeroPress is. It's a graduated cylinder with a really, really sturdy rubber seal and a paper filter. And it makes ludicrously great coffee because you have control over everything. You can control the temperature of the water. You can control the fineness of the grind. You can control for how long the coffee steeps. It is the most scientific way to make coffee, and I have found the perfect method that I will not bore you with right now for AeroPress coffee. But
next week, he will.
I will answer it in several DMs.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, French press, 175 degrees, coarsely ground coffee. And then if I'm not caffeine satisfied, then an AeroPress, also 175 degrees with finely ground coffee, steeped upside down for like 60 seconds.
I like marshmallows in mine.
Yes. Tommy the Gun 13, Tommy Gunn, freaking contributor, asks us, McKinnon and Wright turned it on Sunday, so who will be the surprise player on Thursday?
It's kind of a difficult one to predict, right? That's kind of the point. Can it be a defense player? What about Captain Munnerlyn? Why doesn't he surprise? Let's have him surprise.
He's the obvious choice. He is no. I mean, the obvious choice for a surprise in the sense that he is a very good player who just hasn't put up particularly outstanding numbers for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And it's not a function of his failure to play or, a system that's not using him well. It's just, the way the games have worked out.
Yeah.
He'll get his moment, and hopefully it's this week.
All right.
Can the Vikings defense figure something out and give up only half of third downs instead of 2/3, like the last 2 weeks? Mike Zimmer sincerely hopes so.
Yeah, I think so. Teams obviously should not think this, but analysts can think this, and that's what makes this so nice, is that actually the Vikings' third down issues, while in issue, are not sustainable or not sustainably bad, right? Because the Vikings haven't actually been this bad on third down in other games, and then also the Vikings' ability to get people to third down indicates an ability that in the future should translate into getting people off of third down, because the Vikings are forcing players or teams to take more plays because they're so good on first and second down. Generally speaking, this thing doesn't sustain itself, or at least it'll level off. Obviously, coaches shouldn't think this way because there are specific situations, specific things, specific kinds of ways that you need to prepare in terms of a game plan in order to prevent getting weak on third down. But they actually do a very good job of forcing third downs, which is not something people take into account, because the more third downs you force, even if you're bad on third down, still increases your ability to be a good defense. That's why they were able to hold the Saints back. That's why they were able to hold the Falcons back. And the Falcons did end up scoring, 28 points. 7 of those points are, whatever, no one cares. But if you take a look at something like drive success rate, how many first downs do opposing teams get based on the opportunities they have to get first downs? So in a down series, the Vikings rank 13th in the league, and they're probably naturally a more talented team than that even. So it's an issue, but I think it's not going to be as bad as it was.
Nathan Krayenbrink, another first-time contributor to the Mailbag, writes us, Are the coverage breakdowns more talent-related, or are they things that might reasonably be fixed as the season progresses?
I mean, take a look at who broke down in coverage, who screwed up. It was Captain Munnerlyn and Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith on the Josh Hill touchdown, against New Orleans. Captain Munnerlyn against Edelman in the New England game. Captain Munnerlyn twice in this other game. They're both talented players. It's something that should fix itself reasonably as the season progresses.
Jace D at JJ Dakota, DACOTAH on Twitter. Yet another first-time contributor. Gosh, we're expanding our reach.
This is fantastic news.
We can actually attract new listeners to this show.
Oh, that's like ahead of ourselves.
Are not just
Kyle,
misplaced Norwegian death metal music fans. Do you see any similarities between Teddy/Jarek/Cordero and Aikman/Smith/Urban?
Well, in that both are North Turner, sets of players. No. I mean, Irvin was good at things that Cordero is not, and Cordero was good at things that Irvin was not. I mean, Irvin was this big possession receiver who's very good at boxing out players. That's not something Cordero can do, even though he's big. Teddy and Aikman, I guess, are probably the two most similar out of these. I wouldn't. I'd say that Teddy can do. Aikman's a Hall of Fame player, so obviously I don't want to emphasize this too much, but the number of things Teddy can do, because he's a runner, because he can roll out, because he can throw better on the run than Aikman can, the number of things that he can do are more than the number of things that Aikman can do. He's more mobile. I think he's got more pocket presence than Aikman had. Of course, I don't remember a lot of things about Aikman, but these are the sort of the things that I think I know about him. And then, Emmitt Smith and Jerick McKinnon are not comparable in any reasonable sense. But in terms of potentially being the big three, I guess I could see it. Cordell Patterson's the only person right now that I'd be comfortable to say that if his career trajectory followed along the same path, he'd probably be a Hall of Famer. But his trajectory has to play out almost exactly that way for that to happen. Teddy hasn't had enough snaps. Jerick McKinnon, who knows? So, maybe it's kind of early for the question, but.
Jace, I will say yes when we trade away a remarkably successful Teddy Bridgewater for a running back and a pick in 2 years.
Thanks, man. That was not depressing.
Well, that would make the similarity complete, right?
Well, sort of. We would trade Adrian Peterson to the Dallas Cowboys for a bevy of picks. That would make the comparison better.
That would actually be way better for the Vikings, but we promised a dearth of Adrian Peterson updates.
All right, next question.
And the last question from Kermudge at Kermudge on Twitter. Why can't the Viking D ever get off the field on 3rd and long?
Some of it has to do with just a random chance, and that's just when a coverage breakdown happened to occur. One thing I'd like to note, Kermudge, I am kind of happy that you actually listen to the show and still follow me on Twitter because you disagree with almost everything I say. So happy to have you on board, dude.
You can follow Arif on Twitter at Arif Hassan NFL. You can follow our intrepid producer and hat giver-awayer and tweeter-in-chief James at Big Mono. You can follow me at Norse Code Dusty. Please check out our website, NorseCodePodcast.com. You will find a brief back catalog of episodes there, as well as the PayPal donate button at the bottom of the page. You will find links to our wall of fame, including all of the people who have given us a few bucks, $5 to be exact, which is all we ask from any of you. Just give us $5 once and call it good. And then Norse Code can continue happening in perpetuity. I would like to thank Basel Abul Haj. He gives us a message with his donation. I've been lurking for too long, so I had to feed the kitty. I assume he means the podcast donation box and not actually his own cat. Love the podcast. Keep it up. Well, we will, Basel. Thanks to you. You will find links to our iTunes feed and our Stitcher feed on each of our pages at both DailyNorseman.com and NorseCodePodcast.com. Just looking at the stats from Libsyn, it sounds like most of you have successfully made the RSS feed switch to the correct feed, which is Norse Code, the number one podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. And that is correct, because you are listening to Norse Code, the number one podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. Thanks once again to our guest tonight, Justis Mosqueda of Bleacher Report and DraftKings and Optimum Scouting and his own blog. And for Justis and James and Arif and myself, Dusty O'Connell, our formula is this: Christian Ponders sucks. We'll see you next week.
Norse Code is the official podcast of the Daily Norseman SB Nation blog and is produced with cooperation from Pompous Jerk Productions. Pompous Jerk Productions. Attitude with attitude. The opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of their contributors and do not reflect official positions of the Minnesota Vikings, SB Nation, the Daily Norseman staff, or PJP. No information in this podcast should be construed as gambling advice. Please obey all local gaming laws.